Yo, what is up guys, and welcome back to McAdee's Entertainment. I'm your host as always, Adam McGahee. Well, we're officially less than 24 hours from the Marvel Zombie show, and man, I didn't think this day would come. With the show being so close to release, I wanted to get out one more video for you guys, and that is going to be Spider-Man's insane history with Marvel Zombies. I already did collections of re-uploads like these for Blade, Moon Knight, and Punisher, and now it's time for our favorite undead wall crawler to shine those rotting pearly whites of his. Similar to the other videos I've done in this series, this will be a batch of re-uploads. The first will be Spidey's tale in the original Marvel Zombies, a dark short from the anthology series Marvel Zombies Black, White, and Blood, and even Spider-Man 2099's run-in with the undead. Now before you guys say anything, I know, Spider-Man's story from Marvel Zombies Resurrection is missing from this video. Admittedly, despite all of the Marvel Zombies videos I have done, I have not gotten to all of Resurrection yet. Work and personal life have been hectic lately, so I haven't done it, but don't worry, it's coming. Also, I still owe you guys the full gory story on Vampire Batman as well. I'm definitely getting that out this time for Halloween. Been putting that off for years now, but I'm locking in this year's the year. But before we hop into things though, as always, I wanted to let you guys know that our free 2-week superhero training plan is live. If you're looking to get in superhero shape this year, follow us on Instagram at McAdee's Fitness. I have the link to the program in my bio. It will give you access to my app where you'll be able to get the program. If you're more interested in more advanced one-on-one personal training plans, feel free to shoot your boy a message with code SUPER. With that out of the way though, let's get on with what you came here for, and that is Spider-Man's insane history with Marvel Zombies. Who is he? Zombie Spider-Man is one of the countless former heroes who became an undead cannibal in the pages of Ultimate Fantastic Four number 22 back in 2005. He comes from Earth 2149, but his origin started out very similar to the main timeline Peter Parker from Earth 616. That is, of course, until our heroes were turned into cannibal corpses. You know, just a little different. Right before the infection broke out, Spidey came across an aggravated Ash Williams, yes, the one from the Evil Dead movies, who tried to warn the Avengers about the incoming zombie threat. Thinking he was crazy, Colonel America had the wall crawler web poor Ash up and take him to police custody. It was during his swing through the city that Ash told Peter that he came across a zombified version of the hero known as the Sentry at the gates of heaven, where he was punched by the former hero, causing him to fall into the Marvel dimension. He tried to warn Spidey that the infected Sentry was quickly on his way to infect this world as well. Ash's story ended up being completely true, as Sentry came to the middle of Manhattan and began tearing through the Avengers, infecting countless in his path. Colonel America was one of the first to be turned, where he then started eating all of the humans around him. On the hunt for his next meal, Zombie Cap then came across Spider-Man swinging with Ash, where he then pounced on the pair, taking a huge chunk out of Spidey's shoulder. Dude, that's no way to greet your friends. The bite caused Peter to drop Ash at the feet of several zombie heroes, who were excited to see that some unexpected takeout had just arrived. The seemingly zombified Spidey then leapt onto Hawkeye, claiming Ash as his dinner that he was going to enjoy alone. Since this was his first human cuisine, the zombies agreed to let Peter be selfish this one time and enjoy Ash to himself. Peter then reveals to Ash that he was still human for the time being and that his spider powers were staving off the zombie infection. Realizing that his Aunt May and Mary Jane were in danger, Spidey swung off to check in on his family. When he got back home, he found that they were indeed safe. He pleaded with both of them that they needed to get away. However, despite his powers' attempts to keep the virus at bay, it overwhelmed his cells and the wall crawler fell over in immense pain, vomiting into his mask. Yeah man, that's gotta be sanitized. Mary Jane ran over to see what was wrong with Peter, but it was too late as he was fully zombified and leapt onto her and began feasting on his poor wife. Aunt May heard the commotion and ran in to see what was the matter. Seemingly possessed by his actions, but still very self-aware, Peter pleaded with Aunt May to run, but it was too late as he began to eat her as well. As Peter chowed down on his family members, the superhero Nova arrived at the window and witnessed the horror and was shocked and disgusted at Spider-Man's actions. Humiliated at the monster he had become, Peter screamed for Nova not to look at him as he leapt onto the hero and attempted to kill him. None other than Daredevil arrived on the scene, who told Nova that there was no other way to end this than by killing Peter. Before Nova could even process the thought of murdering his friend, Spidey leapt onto Daredevil, infecting him in the process. Nova managed to escape, leaving the zombified Peter and Daredevil to their own devices. Spidey then went on a rampage, aiding everyone in his way, which even led him to hunting down and eating none other than J. Jonah Jameson as payback for all of the things he had said about him over the years. Former X-Men villain Magneto was one of the greatest resistance fighters during the infection and actually destroyed a machine that the zombie heroes were creating to journey to different dimensions. Once the portal was shut, a group of zombie heroes surrounded the mutant, swearing revenge on him for shutting off their food supply, Zombie Spidey being one of them. This set off an intense chase between Magneto and the Horde, which resulted in Spider-Man running out of webbing and crashing into the streets below, which resulted in him breaking his leg literally in half. Despite putting up a great fight, Magneto was eventually overpowered, and Spider-Man was one of the former heroes who helped himself to a feast of the Master of Magnetism. After his meal, post-cannibal clarity would kick in, causing Peter to feel a great deal of grief as he would reminisce about the people he has killed. The zombies, already giving up on their humanity, would basically tell him to shut up and get over. They later on would be greeted by the Silver Surfer, who informed the Horde of the upcoming arrival of his master Galactus. Not listening, and just seeing a tasty looking shiny man on a surfboard, the zombies attacked. However, the Surfer fought back just as intensely, firing waves of cosmic energy out of his hands. Despite his powerful assault, not even the Silver Surfer was a match for a zombified Hulk who leapt onto the warrior and bit his head clean off. Giant Man, feeling generous, helped the gimpy Spider-Man and a handful of other heroes to the fresh silver-wrapped corpse, where they then dined on their next meal. Upon eating the Surfer, the heroes realized that they actually gained his cosmic power, which allowed them to shoot cool lasers out of their hands. Like any good zombies would do, the group decided to put these powers to the test by using it to cook their zombie compatriots to see if it made them taste any better. But alas, it did not. No matter how much you cook a zombie, dead meat is dead meat. I don't even think adobo would fix this one. Later on, Galactus would arrive on the planet to announce that he was there to consume it. Spidey and his cosmic zombie boys knew that they were no match for the purple spandex giant in their current state, and thus went into hiding, where they then constructed a machine that would let them harness their cosmic powers into one unified beam. They aimed the weapon at the World Eater and fired it, causing a massive surge of energy to strike Galactus, sending him tumbling to the ground. The remaining zombie villains then came out of the woodwork in an attempt to mooch on the hard work the other zombie heroes had just accomplished. Having no desire to share their hunt with anyone else, Spider-Man and the Cosmic Zombies then went to full-on war with their former arch-rivals. This battle would pit Spidey up against a zombified Venom, who is actually weakened by the zombie virus. Peter shoots a hole right through Venom's chest, causing both Eddie Brock and the symbiote to die right on the scene. During the commotion, Zombie Colonel America had his brain ripped out by a zombie Red Skull, marking the end of the once noble super soldier. Spider-Man then gets revenge on his comrade's death by blasting Red Skull's skull clean off, which then proceeds to get squashed. Zombie Spidey is a complete savage. You don't want to get between Spider-Zombie and his food. The wounded Galactus then tried to get back up, astonished that he was wounded by such impudent and bizarre creatures. Not giving the big boy an opening, Spidey and the gang leapt onto Galactus and helped themselves to an all-you-can-eat World Conqueror buffet. Similar to after eating the Silver Surfer, Peter and the other zombies then inherited the incredible planet-hopping, world-eating abilities of Galactus, where they then began going planet to planet, eating everyone in sight to fill their unending zombie hunger. And also all in matching purple jumpsuits. Gotta stay fashionable, boys. Spider-Man and the other zombies would then eventually find their way to a Skrull planet where they would utterly decimate its citizens. Spider-Man was so ruthless that he even murdered and ate a terrified Skrull mother and child hiding under a bed. It was at this moment that Zombie Spidey was completely solidified as a full-on villain to me. When I first saw this in the comics, I was like, oh no, this guy's gotta go. He's gone too far. After consuming the entire population and doing battle with a dimensionally displaced Black Panther and Fantastic Four, Spidey and the zombies tapped into their true cosmic potential and legit ate the whole planet. So, you guys better hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your planet, because Zombie Spidey eating everybody up in here. Peter and the Undead Gang would then spend the next 40 years traveling through the cosmos, using each planet they would come across as a fast food stop. It was during this time that Peter finally got his amputated leg replaced by this sick robot leg. Just saying, a zombie Spider-Man figure with a robot leg would be at the top of my Christmas list if this was ever made. Marvel could just take my money. Despite all the fun they had on their 40-year bender, Peter and the other zombies were then shocked to see that they had reached the edge of the universe and had nearly voided the entire galaxy of all life. With their food source running out, the zombies remembered that Reed Richards had built a dimensional device that allowed him to access other non-zombie universes. They then decided to go back to Earth to fix the machine so they could have access to an entire multiverse cuisine. On their way back, Peter noticed something strange about his biology that he confided in Luke Cage about. It seemed that the longer they went without food on their journey, the less hungry he had become. They even made a pit stop on their way back where they discovered Peter Quill's dad, Ego the Living Planet, and proceeded to completely devour him. See, Guardians of the Galaxy? That's one way you could have beat him. Once the zombies made their way to Earth, they discovered the small group of survivors led by Black Panther, who slowly began to repopulate the Earth. Tempted to immediately devour this fresh human meat, Zombie Giant Man stopped the group and proposed turning the humans into a breeding camp where they would have an infinite supply of food. Spider-Man, finally coming to his senses 40 years later, blasted a hole in the side of Giant Man's head, begging him to realize that what he was doing was wrong. Not about to have his food ruined by puny Parker, Giant Man and the other zombies attacked Spidey, who fought back alongside Luke Cage, who actually rekindled some of his humanity as well. The surviving humans managed to propel a shield around Wakanda, blocking the zombies out. However, not completely everyone was locked out, as Spidey, Cage, and an extremely angry and hungry zombie gladiator was trapped with them too. Wanting to claim the remaining human morsels to himself, Gladiator attacked and even proceeded to rip Peter's arm right in half. See, man, even Zombie Spidey can't make a whole issue without getting his suit ripped. With the aid of Forge in a makeshift Iron Man suit, Spider-Man and Luke Cage managed to use their cosmic power to blast the head off of Gladiator, thus saving the humans from this inhuman threat. Spending all this time without food caused Peter and Cage to realize that their hunger had subsided and were welcomed by a zombified T'Challa and the survivors, so that way they could help atone for their sins and prepare for the inevitable return of the still very hungry Avengers. The outside zombies, swearing to find a way in, escaped to Reed Richards' Baxter building so that way they could find the dimensional machine. Upon dealing with the system's security, the gang realized that the machine was back at Wakanda this whole time. Swearing vengeance, the Hungry Boys returned, where they went to war with T'Challa, Spidey, and the Resistance. Just before they could help themselves to the remaining humans, the rest of the zombies, like Peter, had realized that their hunger had vanished. However, one still very hungry Hulk smashed onto the scene, all ready to tear up this newfound banquet. The other cured zombies tried to stop him, but this only angered the Hulk, who killed several of them that stood in his way. One of the survivors volunteered to be eaten to stop the hulking cannibal's rampage, which then caused him to turn back into the human zombie Bruce Banner. Spider-Man and the other heroes knew that the only way to end this was to kill Banner, so they all used their cosmic energy to fry the scientist's head, marking the end of the once incredible Hulk. Burying and memorializing the dead, Spider-Man and the zombies worked with one of the chief survivors, Malcolm, to repair the dimensional machine so they could travel to different realities to get supplies to rebuild the society they had destroyed. However, this all ended up being a double cross by Malcolm, who turned on the machine and transported Peter and the zombies to worlds unknown so he could rule New Wakanda all to himself. Honestly, I can't say I necessarily blame the guy entirely. Sure, his motives were selfish, but I would not feel comfortable working with these full-on zombie superheroes who legit ate the whole galaxy. There'd definitely still be some hard feelings. Peter is then transported to Earth Z, which is a dimension very much like his was before the virus took hold. He attempts to use his cosmic powers to fly around the city, but his cells were altered during his multiverse field trip, and that caused him to lose his fancy space abilities and had to resort to good old-fashioned web slinging. However, his web shooters dried up a long time ago, so instead of some fresh white webs coming out of his wrist, he gets a bit more organic with it and shoots out a nice little mix of veins and arteries. Excuse me, I'll be right back. I just had some Burger King before making this and I'm about to lose it. Body Horror Parker then recognizes this exact time period from his dimension when he was human and remembers that there was a mystical tablet nearby that could possibly reverse his condition. As he arrives to the museum where the tablet is, he sees that the Sinister Six already beat him to the scene, who attempt to use the tablet themselves. He tries to handle the situation normally as he did back in his hero days, but the strong jungle scent of Kraven makes his zombie cravings irresistible, and Spider-Man lashes out and brutally murders the Six and proceeds to feed on and infect them. The only one able to escape was Flint Marko's Sandman, due to his body being made of a zombie and Anakin Skywalker's most disliked substance, sand. See, that's the only thing you need to beat Darth Vader. Just call Flint Marko up on the phone. He'll take care of it for you. Hearing the commotion, the Peter Parker of this Earth arrives to the scene, only to be confronted by Sandman. First thinking that this was the zombie Spidey wanting to get a taste of his sandy beach bod, he takes no chances and overwhelms this universe's Peter with a wave of sand and pours it into his mouth. He pours so much in that it causes his stomach to overfill and explode, thus killing the Spider-Man of this Earth. So when in the right situation, it goes to show that Sandman is pretty OP and is a force to be reckoned with. Never back a man with a green striped shirt in a corner. Dude's packing. The Kingpin then arrives to the museum to take the tablet for himself. He prepares to do battle with the zombie Spider-Man, but despite being insanely jacked in this dimension, he is quickly gobbled up by the starving spider zombie. When he goes to find the tablet, Peter then sees that the zombie Sinister Six that he created had killed and eaten Mary Jane and all of his closest friends. Losing his family for a second time, Spider-Man kills the zombie Sinister Six, completely mutilating their bodies. As he stood in a pool of blood, guts, and heads, this tormented Spider-Man realized he was truly cursed and can never be normal again, and is even less than a man. He proceeds to rip his skin off and throws it in a garbage can, leaving only exposed muscle tissue behind, and walks off into the darkness. He then remains underground for 4 years, vowing to find a cure for the virus. He discovers and saves Kitty Pryde, who is being hunted by zombie Wolverine, who is also transported to this dimension. He tells her that he is nearing completion of a cure, but needs a blood sample from her Earth's Wolverine to complete it. Disgusted by the awful stench in Spider-Man's lab, Kitty discovers a closet full of mutilated bodies. Peter is then forced to reveal that he too is a zombie and has been stashing and eating Wolverine's victims to keep his hunger at bay while he tries to find a cure. They locate this world's Wolverine, who does battle with and defeats his zombie counterpart. They get his blood, and Peter swings off in an attempt to save the day, but not before it is revealed that this Wolverine was infected too sometime during this fight. Spider-Man then allies himself with a zombified Hulk of this dimension who was betrayed by a zombie version of the Sentry. He tells the Hulk that the only way to stop this was for all of them to die. After being fully infected from his battle with the other Wolverine, this new zombie Logan of this Earth allies himself with Spidey, the Hulk, and Rhodey of this dimension, who is the new Iron Man, thus forming the new Avengers. They go to battle with the zombie horde of this world, and Spider-Man unleashes his secret weapon, which was Sandman stored in a jar who had his body laden with special nanites created by Tony Stark that destroy necrotic tissue. Sandman floods the arena with his body, eviscerating all the zombies there, including Zombie Peter. Finally rid of his curse, Spider-Man with his dying breath thanks Flint for avenging the murder of his Aunt May and Mary Jane. The story opens as we see the blood-red skies above New York, where we are taken to the Daily Bugle, where the staff are in for the news story of their lives and the life beyond. As smoke and cinder billow from the nearby buildings, we are taken inside the iconic newspaper office, where we see our hero Spider-Man holding off dozens of Bugle staff who appear to be infected with a zombie-like illness. With the likes of J. Jonah Jameson and only a few staff members alive, Peter fights off the infected hordes to give his friends the time they need to escape this hellish fate. Telling the group to hold on, Peter is suddenly ambushed by former staff member Betty Brant, Jonah's secretary, and the first love of Peter's life. If this wasn't enough heartbreak, Peter too was attacked by a zombified Robbie Robertson, one of the first people to believe in Peter when he was first hired, and one of his closest mentors. Reminding himself that these people were gone and were replaced by these monsters, Spider-Man fought his way through the army, clearing a path for Jonah and the others to escape. As Jameson pulled the fire alarm to cause a distraction to the hordes, Peter made a final desperate call to the Avengers, who had been shockingly absent during this attack. Once again receiving nothing but static, Peter believed that Earth's mightiest heroes were gone, and for the very first time in his life, he felt truly hopeless. Not having the heart to tell Jonah the news, Spider-Man told him that he called the other heroes and instructed them to get to safety. Going to war with the undead, Peter felt hope somewhat return when he heard the voice of Hawkeye through his watch, saying that they were knee-deep in zombies, but were en route to his location. Knowing that he had to buy time, Spider-Man felt his spider sense go off, where he felt a zombie behind him. Striking into the creature, Peter remarked at how powerful this one felt, his bruised body barely able to stand, and his senses feeling off. Out of nowhere, Peter was violently struck from behind with a rock by one of the zombies. However, this one was no ordinary corpse. This was the bloodied, infected body of none other than his Aunt May, demanding for Spider-Man to tell her where her nephew was. In a disturbed, twisted manner, May was still somewhat in control of her actions, using her newfound strength to brutalize Spider-Man, asking just what this menace did to Peter. With each brutal blow, Peter received flashbacks of the kind woman May once was, unable to fight back against who he loved as a mother. As the bruised Spider-Man limped against the wall, he finally decided to give the crazed woman just what she wanted, taking off his mask, revealing his identity as Peter Parker. Shocked at this revelation, it seemingly broke May out of her undead trance, where she asked her nephew just where she was, only to break down sobbing at the monster that she had become. With tears in her eyes, she pleaded with Peter to kill her and end this nightmare she had been living for so long. Knowing this was the only way, Peter began to pummel Aunt May, beating her head to a paste, all while convincing himself that this was not her. As May's crimson corpse lay on the bugle floor, Peter knew it was all over, for his arm was wounded in battle and felt the virus soon taking over him. Opening the door from one of his offices, Jonah saw the wounded Spider-Man and went to help him, only for the now fully zombified Peter, surrounded by legions of the undead, to turn around and scream at the man and the rest of his friends to run for their lives. The story opens on Earth 2099, where we see a scientist named Hector on a nice and relaxing evening stroll through the cemetery with his wife Barbara, where they are suddenly attacked by something. This something seemingly being a band of undead zombies. The horde tears poor Barbara apart, where the man is forced to watch, all while screaming her name. Months later, we would see that Hector survived the attack, where he injects himself with a mysterious substance. We then see his face take on a more monstrous form, where he reveals that this substance was apparently the Death of Death, and that this was all in honor of his late wife. Sometime later, we see our hero of the future, Miguel O'Hara, as he swings through the skylines of Nueva York, where he notes that things had been bizarrely quiet as of late. He then makes his way home, where he prepares dinner for an important guest. This very important guest being his mother, whom he had not spoken to for quite some time after she had discovered that he was Spider-Man. Bringing out the food, Miguel hears a sickly voice enter his doorway, where, much to his shock, we see his mother Connie collapse to the floor with a huge red bite mark on her arm. Rushing to the woman's aid, Miguel asks what happened, where she told him that she had been volunteering at their local barrio, where a deranged man had burst in and began attacking others, where he had bitten her before being taken down by the police. With tears in his eyes, Miguel told her to stay conscious as he called the medics, where we see a bizarre change in her demeanor, as she claimed that she was now feeling quite fine. In fact, she had worked up quite an appetite, and Miguel's bleeding heart was looking quite delicious. Confused at his mother's disturbing words, a horrified Miguel witnessed the woman transform into a possessed monstrous entity, where she viciously attacked him. Telling the woman this was not her, Miguel webbed up his mom's loud zombie mouth, where she angrily scolded him for passing up on her supposed gift of immortality. Managing to tear the webbing off of her mouth due to her increased strength, Spider-Man took no chances and webbed poor Connie against the wall, where he thanked her for managing to traumatize his childhood yet again. Seeing that he had a zombie problem, Miguel sought out a zombie expert, which was this universe's Dr. Nikau Blade, who was the undead son of the original Blade, Eric Brooks. Investigating this infection, Blade informed Spider-Man that Connie's desire to feed was similar to his, but unlike him, she was neither dead nor alive. The men then placed the woman in an aquatic chamber that Blade had built to study himself and keep him restrained when his hunger became too much. Analyzing her DNA, the men discovered that this was not your standard run-of-the-mill zombie virus. Unlike most other undead infections, the cells here never degrade, making whoever was infected completely immortal. Being that this was a custom-made virus, Blade was able to track down Patient Zero to the Dr. Hector Southey we saw at the beginning of the story. Locating the man's lab, Blade set off on a mission to find a cure, while Miguel set off to save any survivors he could locate in the city. Making his way to the barrio where his mother was infected, Miguel saw things were worse than he thought, where he witnessed a band of heavily armed officers guarding its entrance. With the police promptly telling Spider-Man to leave, he got prompt with them right back, saying that there could be survivors in there that needed their help. With Captain DeWolf saying they could not risk the infected threatening the city, Spider-Man properly roasted him, saying that the city was already threatened, and he certainly did not get in Spidey's way after he saved him from Carnage a while back. Putting the officer in his rightful place, the man was stunned as Miguel entered the premise. Making his way inside, Spider-Man located a trail of blood, which led him to the tattered costume of the local hero Bodio Man, who was presumed lost to the outbreak. Here we would see this presumption was correct, where out of nowhere, he would be attacked by the infected Bodio Man, along with an entire legion of fellow zombies. In Nevada, Blade was getting closer to Southey's lab, where we see him battling a horde of infected of his own just outside. Despite slicing into countless zombies, Blade was soon overrun as one snuck up from behind and tore the man's arm out of place. Dogpiling him, the army viciously attacked, only to awaken the devil trigger-like beast form, where he unmercifully cut the hordes down to size. Literally bursting the door down to the lab, Blade made his way to the computer and started his research, where he discovered that this was no accidental outbreak. Everything that had happened up to this point had been planned out, and was in fact one huge organized experiment, and this world's citizens were the test subjects. Delving deeper inside the Bodio, Spider-Man located the fully crazed and zombified Dr. Heather Southey, the man responsible for this devastation. In his own twisted way, Southey truly believed that what he was doing was saving people from death, preventing what happened to his wife from happening to anyone else. Given how this virus dulled people's brains, making them literally insane, Spider-Man tried to argue just how crazy this was, but alas, the man was too far gone, and was not going to be stopped until everyone was given his supposed gift. This then led to a brutal battle between the men, where, given Southey's amplified strength, was able to get the jump on Miguel, where he suddenly bit into him, infecting Spider-Man with this world's Marvel Zombies virus. Delighted that he just added someone as powerful as Miguel to his growing undead army, Hector thought he had won, until we see a surprising twist. Normally infected would begin to transform immediately, even instantly turning their blood to white. Spider-Man was unaffected, with his blood still running crimson red. It would appear that due to his altered spider DNA, it would leave Miguel as one of the very few on this earth who would be immune to this rampaging disease. Furious that his plan was falling apart, the Doctor attacked Miguel, only for the hero to quickly gain the upper hand, where he webbed his legs and tore them right off, slamming the man to the ground. Considering that this man could not die, Miguel did not have to hold back, where he then stepped on his hand until it completely broke off, where he then tossed him to the hordes as punishment for what he did to his mother and these innocent people. Knowing that the Doctor was responsible for turning them into these monsters, the infected would leap upon him, tearing this immortal man to shreds. With the officers still surrounding the building, they are alerted to the sound of movement near the door. This would be revealed as the victorious Miguel, who emerged with a group of uninfected children whom he was able to save from this hellish fate. Later on at Blade's lab, we discover that the man was able to make a cure for Miguel's mother using the hero's blood. Although the serum worked, it was a bittersweet victory, as it only did succeed since she shared the same genetic markers as Miguel. For anyone who did not, it would act as a poison, therefore leaving anyone else infected in this state permanently. As the Alchemex company would arrive to the leftovers of Southey's lab, Blade and Spider-Man knew the corporation could not be trusted with such technology. It is then revealed that Blade had given the secrets of the virus to this world's techno ghostwriter, who stored it within the vault of hidden science, never to be seen again. As for the remaining infected, they were all rounded up and sent to a dwarf planet in the reaches of space to start a new life for themselves, far away from spreading this hell again on Earth 2099. A tragic fate for completely innocent people.